In this particular case, I had two dreams about this cat that my dad owned. Now, keep in mind, I met my dad for the first time when I was 16. I lived with him for about a year and a half and then left to go to school, right? So I do not know the guy very well. But he had this cat that, he'd just gotten when I met him. And he was a kitten at the time named Porgy. He was one of those tailless Manx cats that you see, right? And Porgy got to be this really great friend of mine. He followed me everywhere. I'd go out into the woods to paint, and he'd go with me, and he'd go catch butterflies or whatever while I'm painting. And then when I'd start packing up my gear, he'd sense it somehow. He'd be like half a mile away, and I'd see, all the bushes moving aside as he trampled his way down to get to me, and then we go to the house together. I remember once we even went to, I got on my bike and I rode 45 minutes to an art supply store. And like almost an hour later, Porgy came trotting up to the store. So he'd actually followed me all the way to this place. So anyway, maybe a year after that, we were living in Maine, and I was going to college, and I woke up from this horrible dream. It was in the dream, Porgy had turned into like this werewolf-sized creature, and he was very angry with me, and he was slashing at me, and he was saying, "How could you let them kill me?" Over and over again. He kept saying, "How could you let them kill me?" And then I woke up from that, and I'm thinking, oh my gosh, that sure was scary. And I went to the bathroom, went back to upstairs, went back to sleep, and I dreamt about him again. And this time he was all tiny and diseased and feeble, and yet he was still very angry, and he had all these diseased claws with festering sores everywhere. And he was slashing at me saying, "How could you let them kill me?" Right? It's exactly what he said. So, and he said it over and over again. So I woke up from that thinking, oh boy, will I never get any sleep. Anyway, so 2 weeks later, my dad calls me to say that my grandfather wants to see me. And keep in mind, I've seen my grandfather maybe like 2 times in my whole life at that point. Actually, this might be the second time. I'm not sure. It was something like that. And while I was talking to my dad, I said, it's a funny thing. I had a dream about Porgy a couple of weeks ago. And I told him what I just told you. And he said, well, 2 weeks ago, we put him down. And I said, what are you talking about? And he said, well, he had leukemia, and the vet recommended we put him down. So we put him down. But the thing is, that makes sense in the context of what he was saying to me in my dream. He wasn't saying I'd killed them. He was saying somebody else had done it. But by saying, how could you let them? It was as if he thought I could stop it somehow, which I couldn't. A, I didn't know about it. And B, well, actually, that's why I didn't know about it. But I have a feeling that if I did know about it and I tried to argue with my dad, it would have been a hard argument to win. But especially at my age at the time. But I ignored that. I thought, well, funny coincidence. Okay. But, still, I would think that most people would like to think that's kind of a strong example.